What is up, everybody? Welcome to the CRE Arena. My name is Augie Schmidt, and today we have a very special guest. We have Ellis Hammond in the house. Man, thanks for joining us.
What's up,
Yeah,
Augie?
yeah, all the way from the West Coast. So Ellis is a commercial real estate investor, founder and CEO of Symphony Capital Group. He also leads a commercial real estate mastermind for investors, specifically Christian real estate investors, which is how we first got linked up. It's been an awesome group to be a part of, and something I know I'm grateful for, and a lot of other folks are grateful for as well. So doing a lot of cool things. Man, thanks so much for coming
Yeah,
on.
dude, pumped to be here, man. Support
Yeah.
you and what you're doing and trying to help folks in your world. So excited to be here, man. Let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. So to get us started, I really wanted to just, I like to go back from, I guess, from day one, from ground zero. So I know where you're at now, but and I know what's going on with you now, but the audience doesn't, and also kind of where it all started. So where'd you grow up, and how'd you get to where you are today?
Yeah, today, to give folks a little bit of context, we're, a full-time syndication multifamily investment firm. We've transacted on about $150 million of multifamily real estate across a couple different markets, primarily focused in DFW today. We just closed on a $45 million or 200 unit deal, north of $40 million transaction in the Dallas market. And that's definitely our focus. Love that area. Want to continue to grow. So if you're in that area or you're finding deals in that area, you want to invest in that area, let's connect. But yeah, to answer your question, I was, 2020, I was still actually in full-time pastoral ministry. I grew up in South Carolina, went to school in South Carolina, came to Christ as a college student, where I would say the real turning point in my faith, and just had a real desire to help other young college students begin to kind of answer some of the questions that I, was forced or had the privilege of kind of answering in college of, what is our purpose, and who is God, and why does he care for us, and how does that impact our lives. And so we moved to San Diego to help start a ministry called Campus Outreach. And so that's what we did from the time we graduated up until 2020, and had real no intentions of kind of doing anything else outside of vocational ministry. But God had kind of put that on our hearts to go figure out how we build and create wealth along the way, and not just raise money. And real estate became a vehicle for us. My wife and I started with a duplex here in San Diego. We did all the ugly work that it takes to buy small deals, and did really well, but learned quickly that this was not the vehicle we wanted to use to really build and grow wealth in. And so that's where we learned about raising money and doing syndication deals. And
Now,
so,
real quick, did you do the FHA route for the duplex?
no, we didn't. I don't know why we didn't do FHA. We did, maybe we did. I can't remember. I remember we had to put a lot of money down. We had to. We still didn't have any money, so we borrowed money from a family member, which was like $100,000 for the down payment. Because this was like
That's a that's a,
six.
that's a solid family member. You got to keep them on the short
Yeah,
list.
yeah. That's probably all the money they had, though, honestly. And so, but we did really well. And long story short, yeah, we did. We doubled our equity in that deal pretty quickly. Ended up selling that deal a couple years ago. But anyways, it's not what we do today for a variety of reasons, of course. Um, but mainly just in terms of scalability and being able to raise funds and invest in larger deals is essentially the route that we ended up taking. What was interesting, man, is like we bought our duplex and we bought our first apartment complex. We were still in full time ministry. And I think a lot of my passion for what I do today, and especially working with other faith-centered wealth creators, teaching other, faith-centered entrepreneurs how to get into this business, is because when I was getting into this, I shouldn't say it didn't exist, because I'm sure there were several faithful folks doing this, but it wasn't broadly out there. Like I didn't know where to go to find the Christian real estate investors, or the
Yeah.
folks who really were, passionate about their faith in Christ and really serious about building and generating wealth for the kingdom. And so I think just a lot of, the content we create and the messaging that we have is because of that. It's just like, this is who I am. This is always who I've been, at least since I've gotten into this. And it's not that I'm trying to be different. I'm really just like, no, I didn't know where to turn, man. I kind of like just, stumbled my way into this industry, and also trying to figure out how do I really, I was a pastor and now I'm an entrepreneur. Probably always been an entrepreneur, but the title wasn't there. And so how do we really live this out faithfully and effectively? So yeah, that's a lot of kind of, our why and my why, and even probably why I am so open about my faith. One is just who I am, but two is because I hope other people hear it and realize, you can be a faithful follower of Christ and absolutely crush it in business at the same time. And in fact, I think if you are a follower of Christ and you are in business, it's your duty to crush it. Like, you should be crushing it. And so, anyways.
Yeah, no, that's really good, man. Thanks for the insight. And so, and I couldn't agree more, man. I think one thing that's been kind of a foundational principle of what I've really tried to do well, and has been stewardship. And I think that's the biggest thing for me, and it goes so far beyond finances, because oftentimes that's where it starts and stops, is we talk about stewarding finance as well, which I think is very important, but also stewarding time and energy, dreams, passions, all of those things. So I've been big on that, on stewarding all of those things, as well as finances, that God has given me for the betterment of His kingdom. So that's something I've been big on, and yeah, I know we connect on that well. So to go from, so after the duplex, you said duplex and then apartment complex. How many units was the apartment complex after
144.
Okay, and so from that jump, so you said you doubled your money in the duplex?
Yeah.
So how'd you go from duplex to 144 units? That's quite the jump.
Yeah, I always,
70,
I teach
70x.
now. I mean, part of it is just like taking out. So we bought, we had no real estate knowledge. I went to a seminar and saw, a bunch of normal people buying deals. I'm like, I can do this. And so, 4 months later, we bought our first duplex with a lot of help, though. Like, and I shouldn't say like I can do this, because I had no idea what to do. And if I tried to do it on my own, I would have, been really screwed up. But we found mentors. We found people in this space. So, our first mentor in that duplex was a local real estate investor here in San Diego. And then, we ended up partnering with another mentor that, again, I found off a podcast that I called and started building a relationship with. And, they were doing multiple deals. And, essentially we came in as an equity partner and help, provide equity and kind of take over some investor relations roles for that group. And so that was how we broke into that. Again, like, I didn't have much operating experience. I didn't know much about underwriting, but coming alongside of that person taught me a lot about getting into this business. And more than anything, man, it gave me a story. Because I saw it, I realized why we wanted to go bigger. I just didn't know how to get there. So instead of like trying to figure it all out and go through coaching and learn the whole business, I'm like, well, how do I get into a deal? Well, the fastest path for me to get into a deal was to, leverage the network that I had already built to partner with someone who already was in deals. And so that's a strategy I teach a lot for anyone who's looking to break into this, is like, leverage what you got. If you're a broker and you can find deals, and you want to actually, be a GP on something and actually start to create equity, then leverage your deal finding skills, right? And bring to a guy like myself who can raise funds. And if you already have a network of capital, leverage that and find ways to break into deals by leveraging your network. And so, that's kind of the idea of like, what I would call the watermelon framework, right? Where you may not own 100% of the deal, you might own 10% or 20% or 30% of the deal, but the juice from the slice of a watermelon is much greater than the juice from an entire grape. And so I think that has kind of always been my theory of, I'd rather own a smaller percentage of something massive than 100% of something that is small, takes all of your time, and makes no money.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. And yeah, I think there's different strokes for different folks because I've always looked at it on a percentage basis because I've seen people 100% fund deals and own say the grape say they own the grape's $2 or $3 million, but they own 100% of it versus being in a bigger deal. But I think risk comes into play, and also the assets that you guys are buying. It's the risk there, especially if bought and underwrote correctly, especially in markets like DFW. Those are good deals in good markets.
Yeah.
It's funny you say that actually because DFW is actually kind of been the second market. So, Central Florida between Tampa and Orlando has been the corridor that I've been focused on, and also growing the portfolio in Central Florida. But I've always said that, next stop, I want it to be DFW. So that's a great market, man.
Come on.
Yeah. So, and did you talk about moving out there? Did you talk about moving to Dallas?
I always talk about moving, man. So we live in San Diego, which I love. But there's just challenges in living in San Diego, affordability and liberal agenda and school system, et cetera, and just But no, we're not going anywhere anytime soon, man. San Diego, despite all of those things, is still one of the best cities on the planet to live in. So we really need a compelling reason to get out of here, and just don't have that right now.
And not to spend too much time on it, but what do you think makes it the best city? Like what's keeping you there?
Weather's perfect. It's really hard to beat the weather we get here year round. We don't really have great humidity. It doesn't get very cold. So that's really nice. Hey, give me a second. I'll get my daughter's walking in here. Give me 1 sec. Hey guys, sorry, we're back. Can you hear me?
Yeah. How old's your girl now, by the way?
My daughter is now 18 months.
Let's go.
Yeah. She's great.
That's awesome.
And we got another one on the way. So we'll have.
Oh, I didn't know that.
We'll have 2 under 2. So
there you go.
Pretty exciting. Me, man, babies for me are multi-family units. The more the better. I wish we could pump them out 2 at a time, and so unfortunately you don't really get to choose that, even though actually, you probably could actually choose that. Science today is wild, man. Anyway, we're not getting on the route of babies, but
if you have enough money.
That's true. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's a money thing. So, and real quick, when's your wife due?
April.
Okay. My wife's due February 8th. So.
Hey.
We'll be calling each other up in the middle of the night.
Yeah. Thankfully, Ruthie has slept pretty well most of her life. Well, Ruthie was such a good baby that I always say she tricked us into having. She's tricking us into having a second kid. Who knows how this one will go? Yeah. But she's been great.
Yeah.
I forget what I was saying. San Diego. It's cool, man. It's just a place where you have everything. You have the mountains, you have the beach. It's a big, diverse city, so you have great food, great things to do. So, it's a destination location, so a lot of folks come here. It's just been a real fun place to live, man. We've loved it. The diversity, living in the South, and then coming here, just diversity of thought. Diversity of people. I think it's just, I'm really, really grateful for our time. We've been here almost 10 years now. And I look back on, maybe we won't be here for the next 10 years, but kind of who I've become and how it shaped me, and really grateful for my time out here.
Yeah. No, that's good. So to go back, so when did Kingdom REI come into play?
Kingdom REI was the first thing that we started, man, out of ministry, because, thinking about real estate, especially
before the duplex?
No, not before the duplex.
Right.
Duplex was first thing we did. That was 2017. Kingdom REI didn't start till 2020, but we didn't transition out of full-time ministry till 2020. So, it was the first thing that we did, really out of ministry, and part of it was because really twofold reasons. one is I knew kind of stepping into this space, like I really needed community. Like as in there was no one else out there. So I kind of started the podcast. So, early on with the podcast, man, the goal was to interview other faith-minded investors, entrepreneurs. Like I didn't even know if there were people like that. Like I was so naive because I'd just been in ministry for 6 years. Like I wasn't doing anything else, dude. Like my blinders were on. So I had no idea if there were other faith-centered working groups. Now I know there are several other great ones, but like I had no idea where to go. So I started this podcast like really naively of like, well, I hope I can find guests. And what I just began to find and uncover is like, man, there's so many faithful men and women out there really serving God in the world of business and entrepreneurship and investing. And so that was where the real mastermind came from, was kind of this couple folks that I met, like, hey, do you want to, like, I'm going to start this group, pull together our resources so that we can begin to partner on deals. Yeah. And so that it was 6 people, and honestly, that was how we made our first few dollars to have a living, coming out of ministry. Dude, I had no plans. I had no revenue. Someone asked me the other day, like, how, are you, the idea of like transitioning and going out on your own, like, was that a good move, or was that a good transition, or why you did it? And the first thing I'm like, I was so naive in the sense of like, I was so ignorant that I have no idea how I thought I was going to like pay my bills even. I just like, I don't know, man, God provided, and I guess because I knew I was naturally entrepreneurial, I would figure it out. But that was it. Those first 6 guys paid $6,000, and that gave us like 4 or 5 months of runway into the business. And, that company has now grown to, be one of the probably largest faith-based real estate groups in the country. Is doing really, really well and growing even beyond kind of our hands. And it's also given us some, enough time for our investment company to really grow and catch up.
Totally makes sense. Now, so from, you chose multifamily to get into, and so was that from the original group that, you were a part of, or, I know you said you had a mentor in San Diego, which you first got started. Was he just a multifamily guy, and that's the route you went with, or, what made you choose multifamily, and why?
Yeah, I mean, that made the most sense early on. Like when you think about real estate, it's like most people, when they think about starting real estate, it's buying some type of residential asset. So yeah, that was the model that we chose. And, we needed somewhere to live. So we bought that. And then, I think that was the model shown to me early on. I do think though, like why I continue to get excited about multifamily is, we talk about this idea of like triple bottom line investing. And so it's not just like the ROI we create on the dollar, but what is the return on like our impact. And so in being in ministry and really realizing like the heart of God is people, that's why I think I really love multifamily. It gives us an opportunity to not just create value for our investors, but create value for the families that live in our community. So, it gets me super excited, man, where we just did like a trunk or treat at that deal over in Dallas, and you get these photos and videos of, our team, and we have an on-site asset manager and partner that lives in the asset. And so she'll plan these, really fun family-oriented events. So, you get videos of like, these, the whole block being, your tenants, and the families are there and people are interacting. And I mean, I just think we take that for granted when you're looking at deals. Like, dude, this is people's home, right? This is where people raise their families. This is where people are making big life decisions. And so I think that's really, really important to, the experience that you're giving people on a day-to-day basis, even to the small stuff of, they walk outside and is it clean? Is it, you don't want trash or dog poop like sitting and, laying everywhere. I know we actually continue to rent here in San Diego, and that's important to me. I don't want to go out and there be trash everywhere. That would impact my experience and quality of life. And so I think about that as we own assets. We're owning assets, but we're also like, we own a place where people are raising their family and doing life. And so I think for that reason, that's why I really love, I call it the mission of multifamily for that very reason of, we're really doing something I think significant for the kingdom of God, and not just building wealth, but, doing that in a way that has both a social, but even at sometimes a spiritual impact, where we have opportunities to share Christ's love and share a gospel message, all those things.
Yeah, because it is. I mean, these assets, 200-300 units, they are communities.
Yeah,
They're
for sure.
communities, and that's where people are living and raising their family, and yeah, that means a great deal. So, I know it's hard to speak too far into the future, but I mean, near future, is it safe to say strictly multifamily? Has there been any other asset classes that have given you the shiny object syndrome?
I mean, there's a lot, but probably not. I mean, no, just for our focus, I think there's still great opportunities coming, especially with rising interest rates right now, and a lot of these, I would say, very green syndication groups, poor leadership, poor operational experience. A lot of those type of folks bought deals in the last 2 or 3 years and did or did not buy a rate cap, and probably are, again, like I see it happening very clearly all over the place right now in multiple markets. And so you think about 2012 was the start of the Jobs Act, and where we could crowdfund and you could syndicate deals publicly online. And a lot of people who've closed deals in the last, especially 5 or 6 years, are not good. I just say this: they're not good real estate operators. They're good money raisers. So you have a massive amount of money that's been placed by not very good leaders, especially not good real estate operators, that have just put deals together. And now you're going to start to see, as things get tough and really, really tight, the issues of that. And I don't know if that's going to mean like you're going to be able to buy deals. You're probably not going to be able to buy deals at 20% on the dollar, like 2008, 2009. But I do think, man, like, you may be able to buy deals for, that 2017, 2018 values, right? And kind of get some serious good buys. And if you're a long-term holder and you're buying good assets, I think this is a really good time to be in multifamily. Probably one of the best buying opportunities ahead of us that we've seen in a while.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, man. And so, for you getting into the game, I know you said like there's some operators that are that are newer to the game. There's people that are out there on the social media game, and they're doing more of the fundraising side of things. But yes, I mean for everybody, it's hard to wear all of those hats and do all of them extremely well. So I know for me in my business, when it looks to be a partnership or I go into a new venture, there's actually a Blackstone thing. I don't know if you've read What It Takes by Schwartzman, but he
Read
wrote
it twice.
a book. Yeah. So no, great book. But one of their key principles is to acquire a company, it has to have synergy to their other companies, but there also has to be a 10. So they have to make sure they're hiring a 10 along with the company, or the company has to come with one. So for you getting into multifamily syndication, what, I know you talked about it a little bit, but like what would you say was like your what was your strength, and then also where did you look to like fill any weaknesses that you had?
Yeah, I mean, so my strength was probably more on the marketing, raising money side of things. So I would say, early on, I realized I didn't know much about running a business, operating deals, underwriting deals. So that's why early on our model was a lot more based on kind of the equity side of the business. But as we took over deals and as we grew a portfolio, that's where our team Symphony started to form, right? So now we have a director of operations, we have a director of asset management, we have a director of finances, and so all those roles are actually partners of mine. And so that's how Symphony has been formed, is kind of this conglomerate of principals with kind of different varying skills for that very reason. But I think what I've always been good at is good leader, right? Like, and so led building communities of faith on college campuses. So like I was already doing that from a leadership perspective. I think it's a little bit different from like an organizational perspective, and learning how to create KPIs and manage that and keep people accountable to that. But that's what I've learned over the last couple of years. But then working with or having my partners like Keith is probably one of the best operational guys I know, very detail oriented, doesn't let much slip through the cracks, right? Very good at that. Jeremy, one of the best financial kind of minds I know, numbers and spreadsheets and analyzing data. And so, all of that comes into play when you are forecasting out a pro forma, or as things get tight, and you got to figure out, well, where are we from a cash flow perspective, and how many months of runway do we have, right? And things like that. So those are all the things that we've kind of filled in over the last couple of years that I think have made us a really, really strong team and a really good asset to have on some of these projects that maybe we weren't in the driver's seat early on. But, what's interesting, man, is like now we have out kind of paced some of those groups in terms of our experience and expertise, where we are really the ones being relied on to make sure we get through what I think is going to be a pretty tough winter for multifamily.
Yeah. No, and yeah, I've seen the team that you've put together. Good group of guys, and it seems like you guys are really playing at a high level. And
yeah, rock stars, man. And to your point, like I've realized that, dude. Like it is, and so if you're, it's true, man. Like that idea of like A players. Here's the thing that I think I've never met an A player who didn't act with a sense of urgency. And I think that's the thing that over the last couple of years and being an entrepreneur, being in business, the people that the ventures that did not succeed or are really hurting right now are typically ran by folks that do not live and act with a sense of urgency. And have noticed that multiple times. And like it's so important to me now that it's a core value in our company of like, you will be hired and fired based on your sense of urgency. And it's so, because it can make up for a lot of things if you act with urgency.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. And that's, I started to laugh when you said that, because that's one of the things that my wife is kind of like, she started to understand more, but I think at first especially she was kind of like, what is your deal? If somebody's going 5 miles an hour below the speed limit, like, what are you doing? You act like you have no place to be. Like move out of my way.
Yeah.
I have somewhere to be. I have things to get done. Same thing when because I get up at, like 4:15, I was actually up at 3:45 this morning because of my daughter, but I usually get up at like 4:30. But I naturally, like when my feet hit the floor, I am so excited. And I'm ready to go chase the day. So
I love that. It's interesting. I'm not that way. Like in the sense of like mornings, I don't consider myself, like mornings for me are a discipline. And, now my daughter wakes up pretty early, so we're up early. But my point is, when I'm working on a big project, or like I have like a big marketing campaign or something going on, we're building a new webinar, I'm up pretty early to work on that. And so I feel like those type, like what you're saying, like being excited waking up mornings come to me in seasons. But like, I'm not gonna lie, on a default level, I'd much rather, when I'm up and 8, 9 o'clock, when the day starts is grind time. But I'd probably much more prefer to have a casual morning, 6, 7, drink my coffee, hang with my girls, and then really hit it.
Yeah, and then a sense of urgency comes at all different times, because no matter what time you wake up, I mean, there's the people, that it's like, hey, you get to work and like it's just kind of like you're there.
Yeah.
It's like, hey, I'm here. I'm like where I'm supposed to be, and just kind of chilling. But I really can't vibe with that. That's just not me. So. So I want to, before we get out of here, one thing I also want to talk about was, because I thought there was a few different areas that you could really provide value to the audience, and some things I've seen you do well. So around like podcast and community. So your podcast you've done extremely well, and then also the community that you've built, which, like I said, I know they're intertwined, but. Can you tell me like some of your, I don't say core competencies, if you will, around like, hey, what makes those things successful in your eyes? So, I know you started with the podcast, and like what made that successful. I've heard of a variety of different things, and this is also selfishly for me asking on the podcast episode like number 7 or so. So what made the podcast successful, and what rhythms did you put in place for that? But then also, as you've turned it into a community. How have you built that, and what's important to you there, and really what do you think contributes to your success in those?
I mean, it's pretty simple, man. On both of those, it's people, right? Like it's relationships. I mean, the podcast really took off early on. One, because I had a really good niche. So both of those, like really good niche. I was speaking to a really core audience and nobody was speaking to, but like really needed to be served, kingdom-minded investors. And so people really caught on to that, and I think kind of found a place and a home and continue to find that, right? Of like, and so you'll be surprised how much easier it is to do or sell anything when you are speaking to people that you have a shared value with, right? Like, it's why, and I learned that early on, like it just makes sense, and sure, I probably will turn a lot of people away. Like a lot of people don't listen to my show because it's the Kingdom Real Estate Investor podcast. But, there's that core concept of like, I forget what it is, but you only really need, especially in this business, like, you can buy a lot of real estate with 100 committed people. Like you can buy a crap ton of real estate with 1,000 committed people. Like that's not a lot. And so I think that realizing having a good niche, is really important in that it's really clear who you serve and you don't try and serve everyone. I've always adhered to that, and honestly try and even get more focused in on that as we've grown. So like we haven't really even expanded. Like if anything, I think we've tried to like even narrow, right, that audience. So that's a key, and that's a key element I think in any across business, but especially for podcasting. Don't try and speak to everyone. Go niche. There's just too much content out there to try and be broad. You just can't compete unless you're just you're playing at a massive level. So that, and just relationships, man. Our podcast grew a lot because we got on great people, who had audiences. And I think that's a hack to growth as well, as, just like you would leverage OPM, other people's money for real estate deals, leverage OPA. And so, it's a great way to grow a podcast, grow a brand, grow a business, is find people who are already serving your target audience and who already are gathering folks in your core audience or ideal avatar, and hack their audience in a sense. Like, well, there's a couple ways to do that. You can go on their podcast show, right? And now, like I'm hacking who I know who your audience is. It's probably not exactly in line with who I serve, but we're friends. So, but I would, I looked early on to go on other people's shows that would actually be interested in what we're doing, and then the other way is to have them on your show and then help them promote your show, right? Because, when people come on, and came on our show, we would find folks, again, who had audiences, and we would help them promote our show, and that helped us out a ton as well. So that's probably the best way to answer your question.
Yeah. No, and I think that, that's something, I've noticed is when you wear your faith on your sleeve and you just put that, first and foremost in everything you do. Not only, so, real estate investing is not a small niche, but, being a Christian isn't either. But when you put those two things together, I don't want to say it's a really small or narrow niche, but it's not, you're not speaking to Christians or you're not speaking to investors, broadly separated, but, Christian real estate investors. And then it's like once you have something in common, that's what makes the loyalty and the community and the bond really come there. And I think we can both say that, like, having Jesus at the forefront of, having Christ at the forefront of your community, of your podcast, of like, hey, this is what is bound us together. That is the commonality, is Christ. It's a pretty big deal, It's a pretty big belief in everybody in Kingdom REI, but also, a lot of the people that listen to your podcast, they listen to it, for that reason, because hey, it's a community of like-minded believers, and their belief is in a pretty big thing. So
Yeah, you know, it's interesting too. Like, and I didn't mean to become this, but like, I get a lot of referrals now to investors, to mastermind members, to speaking engagements because like folks who aren't Christians know me as the Christian multifamily guy, and they're like, "Oh, you need to go meet Ellis or talk to Ellis." And so, how that might serve someone else is like when you do have a good niche, and you become the king of that or queen of that category. You know, you really own that. It's like others know that, then they can refer you business, right? Or they can talk about you, and it's like you become clear in their mind. You know, I mean, take for example, you know, I think Grant Cardona's done a great job of this. He's by no means a very large real estate investor, but he is very well known. And so when you think about, you know, most entrepreneurial groups I know, when you think about multifamily, and be like, well, who do you go to and invest in multifamily? It's like most people would say Grant Cardone. Well, dude, Grant's a small player. Like, he's not small. He owns a couple billion, but like, I know guys that own a lot more real estate than Grant Cardone does. You know, but he's well known, and I think he's he's done a really good job of marketing himself as that. Yeah. And so, you know, you don't have to be the biggest, you don't have to be the most experienced. I mean, heck, unfortunately, you don't even have to be the best. You just you just have to be known, you know, and liked, and I think that's really, really key. I mean, I think the new you know, attention is the new currency of our day, and you know, being able to have and capture and keep that attention is really key in, I think, growing in this business today. I mean, that's true on the brokerage side, that's true on the investor side, right? Like having the attention and being the person that gets the phone calls, dude, that's everything.
Yeah, and that's hard. You know, that's hard because I mean, when you talk about the general sense of, you know, say like social media, say on all these platforms, you know, the Instagrams, the YouTubes, on all these platforms, you know, unfortunately, you know, it's not the humble Christian that gets the views or gets the likes or gets the, but it's the most, you know, outcasted and crazy and you know, walking on the edge type, like, is this person even allowed on this platform? And then also, you know, one of the things you were saying was, or one of the things I thought of, you know, when you were talking about, you know, people coming to you and referring, you know, other people to you, was I've gotten a lot of people come to me lately, mostly through Instagram, to ask me about like material things and wealth and like building wealth as a Christian, which, you know, I'm sure you get a lot of as well, which is like a really good opportunity because I know that's something that, you know, initially I struggled with of you know, hey, being a Christian. And like you said, you know, just when you got on this call, I've always wanted to crush it. You know, I've always wanted to do really well and crush it and, you know, grow businesses and build wealth and do awesome things. But I mean, you know, when I was a new Christian, I just like, that was a very timid and fine line, which I felt, or a very gray area because not a lot of, it's not, you know, spoken about enough in churches, I don't believe. But, you know, that's an area that, you know, being a, you know, Christian entrepreneur and being in the business realm and being fortunate enough to do well, I think that's an area that, you know, you and I both really have probably a responsibility. But, you know, we have a great opportunity to speak into other people's lives, especially the young men out there. I mean, you can go on any social media site and see that, you know, the young men are they're under attack by the content that's out there and the bottles and models and fake jets and this, that, and the other. So, you know, so I think that's a real opportunity for us both, and also
No
the
doubt.
other folks out there listening. So
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I need more people that really have the heart of God and want to make money and make it matter. Some great. I'm part of several groups like that. So I think the goal. You know, what needs to happen is, you know, we got to come together and normalize it within our own. You know, feel comfortable that like, hey, we can talk about money, we can make it. And you know, there are people that want to. You know, I say this, man, like there are there are few people, like the minority of people. There's a minority group. The minority group stands for nothing, right? So there's a minority of our population that stand for nothing, right? Meaning, I'm not going to actually, I'm not going to take a stand. I'm kind of everything goes, right? The majority of people, though, want to stand. Oh, I say nothing. The other minority is everything, right? So I stand for nothing, or I stand for everything, and that's kind of our modern day culture of like, oh yeah, like I support this, and I support this, and I support this, and this worldview, and this worldview. And the reality is, like, if you stand for everything, you're actually just kind of in the category of the nothings. Like it's kind of the same thing. You really can't stand for everything. But the majority of folks really do want to stand for something. And I think that still is the majority of our country and population, of that majority of the majority population want to actually kind of stand for a core convicted value. And, I think it's realizing that and not letting kind of those minority voices get too loud. And as more of those folks that want to stand for something come together and begin to work in light of that, I think that's the next best move, which is why we have Kingdom REI, right? Which is why, you and I are meeting with 65 other folks next week to get in a room and share meals and talk about things like this.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's that's something I think is coming more and more about, in the months and years to come is standing for something.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of crazy in the world, and I think the more noise and fog there is out there, and the crazier the world gets, people are looking for truth.
Yeah.
And we know that truth. So
Yeah, 100%.
No, man, super good to have you. Thanks so much for coming on. Before we go, man, where can people find you?
So when is this going to come out?
Probably in the next 4 to 6 weeks. We're stacking up episodes and releasing.
Yeah,
on
I would just say, so we actually do a summit. You can follow me on social media. We do a lot there for different events that we got going on. But symphonycapitalgroup.com is probably the best place to go. Symphonycapitalgroup.com, and connect with us there. On if you're interested in investing in deals, interested in bringing us deals, interested in partnering on deals. That is a place to go and just connect with us. Send us an email or send us a question, a contact form, and we'll get in touch with you. So that would probably be the best thing.
All right, cool, man. Well, Ellis, thank you so much, brother, and we'll catch you next time.
You the man.
All right, thanks, bro.